said, how can we trust a group of men who don't protect or provide or even respect their own women to lead? Other races have a solid patriarchy that does its job. Other women have the luxury of being protected and provided for by their men. This luxury allows them to be submissive and develop their femininity. As Black women, we've been stripped of this luxury. What do you think about that?
Um, See, I have a lot of thoughts about it because, well, one, the thing, like, okay, so it's a little bit complicated, I guess, for me. Being African, it kind of do have those other three as well, their
Mhm.
requirements, but like also being American, I definitely see how we're taught to be independent. But who is actually teaching us to say these things like I'm independent, I don't need a man? Because I know I wasn't learning it from home for sure.
Mhm.
At, from home, I was learning the top three.
Okay, definitely. Very interesting. So from my experience as a Black American, I had a pretty good example. I don't know. So I had a good example of my father providing for my mother. However, I wouldn't say leading, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say my father was the leader. He was definitely a great provider, but like a leader, not so much. My mom pretty much made all of the big decisions. Um, and when I started to live with my aunt, I lived with my aunt for years and years and years. She was the one that was like, listen now, you need to do everything on your own. She was like, you need to not depend on no man. You know, women are supposed to work hard. So that's where I got that mindset from my aunt. My aunt mostly she did basically all of the raising. You know, she raised me. So it took me a while to kind of deprogram myself and not think like that. But I mean, in our community, I just feel like there aren't a lot of options for me to completely abandon that mindset because not a lot of men are taking on that protector and provider role to begin with right now, and like especially in my generation. Oh, let me just say hey. So hey, Jonathan Phillips says hey, and then Shauna B says good morning, girl. I have a dead phone. What, girl? You need to recharge your phone. Okay, Ruth, what do you think? I mean, do you think being feminine is a luxury? Because I think that's really interesting. Like the concept of femininity, like the ability to be feminine is a luxury. Like the ability to be taken care of, be provided for.
I definitely think being feminine is a luxury. Um, but I like, let me just get my thoughts together. I think it provides a lot of opportunities in every area of life. Just the more feminine you are, like, I actually think it's a strength as well, not just a luxury, but a strength in
Mhm.
what a lot of people are looking for. Like whether you intend to have a man in your life or to be more independent. Like I think like femininity opens doors, which is so crazy, opens doors than the alternative of
Right.
not being as feminine.
Definitely. Definitely. I agree. Like I remember when I was younger, I used to be a huge tomboy. Like I wanted to be a guy so bad. I wanted to be a little boy so bad because I saw that little boys had more freedom. I saw that they could move around, no problem. And so I played that role of being like, I want to be a little masculine little girl. I tell you, when I got out of that phase around when, I would say like 15, 16, I got out of the phase. 16, I was completely out of that tomboy phase. Okay. And I was struggling with femininity, like really struggling until I got literally until goodness recently. And I tell you, like learning how to put on makeup, learning how to do your hair, learning how to dress has made all the difference in my life. Like it's crazy. It's literally crazy. Like my life is so much easier. People want to give me everything now. It was crazy. I was just
And
like, I mean,
It was
it was mind
oh, sorry,
blowing.
go ahead.
It was just mind blowing how
Was
much femininity opened up doors for me.
was there a definitive moment that you realized it was the changes that you were making, um, as opposed to just maybe the people you were encountering?
Mm-mm. No, it wasn't a definitive moment. I found someone on YouTube who really taught me the power of femininity. Like, really, it was the mindset shift of being exposed to other perspectives on femininity. It wasn't like a moment. It wasn't like a defining moment. It was like me continually being exposed to different perspectives on the power of femininity because I was under the impression, the lie that being feminine is a weakness. But like you said earlier, Ruth, it's a strength. And I realized that after, you know, just getting rid of the brainwashing that told me that masculinity was, the only way for a woman to make it through the world.
You see, for me, I feel like similar. Like I was a tomboy. I did everything the complete opposite. Like to me, my mom, she's probably the epitome of a feminine woman to me. Like she's just always had everything in order, and so that's all she ever wanted for her girls is to be completely feminine. And I went against everything. I would even to the point of saying like we're in America now, like we don't have to behave this way, like stuff like that, because culturally, she was taught to be feminine, and just even when she tried to teach me how to cook, especially like our cultural food, I was just like, no, if you're not going to teach my brother how to cook, I'm not going to be there to cook also. So I kind of like fought it, but I've always like it wasn't anything I guess that I really learned per se. I'm learning now how to hone into it and accept it. But for the most part, people have always, I guess, told me that I'm pretty feminine, and I just had no idea what they were talking about. Like I had absolutely no idea. But I don't know if this was part of it, and I was just unaware. But every single job interview, with the exception of one, I usually got hired within an hour. A guy, it would be a lot quicker who was doing the interviewing.
Right.
And so I don't know if that had anything to do with the presentation I had, because I didn't realize how feminine I was, I guess, until recently. Because we weren't, yeah. So mm, I don't know if that opened doors or if it didn't open doors, but now I understand that it definitely has the possibility to, especially the energy as women. Like we just have this need to put things together, and I think that could just be, like an added benefit for any company that you work for.
Mhm. I agree. Okay, let me look at some of these comments. So Jonathan Phillips says, "I agree. Dudes in the 18 to 30 bracket aren't trying to provide. They're not trying to provide." He says, shaking my head. And then he says, "I pay bills and dinners." And he writes it off on his taxes. It's a win-win for me.
That's funny.
He owns a business, so that's the only way we can really write him off. And then Shauna B says, "Word." But anyway, yeah, I mean, the mindset shift is what really got me to start embracing femininity. And because I mean, I used to hate wearing dresses. I used to be like, man, this is horrible. Because my family would always be like, oh, you have a dress on. You can't, go outside and play because you don't want to get your pretty dress dirtied up. And I was like, well, forget this. I want to be a man. I want to be a little boy with jeans on so I can go outside and play. So me realizing it's a very recent occurrence that I'm like, okay, being feminine is actually kind of fun, dressing up, putting on makeup, looking pretty is kind of fun to me now. Before it was like horrible. I didn't want it. Um Paige says, "Hey boo, hey Paige." How you doing, girl? Jonathan, you have someone commending you. Paige says, "Go, Jonathan." But yeah. So it is a luxury.
I agree with you, but I think being feminine definitely is more than the way you wear your makeup and wearing dresses. Like it's definitely in I think, okay, so women are like art. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but in everything that you do, your movements, your gestures, your eyes, like our eyes are so powerful. It's so crazy to imagine how powerful our eyes are. And all of those, like you could be wearing just a t-shirt and jeans and still be like incredibly feminine.
I agree. Absolutely. It's a way of, behavior, and it's an energy that you maintain, right? So what would you say about feminine energy? Like what is it about feminine energy that if you're able to maintain it, it can be really seen as a form of luxury, as a type of luxury?
I think the fact that it draws people in,
Mm.
like pulls people in,
Mhm.
that
So
whole energy.
not like a
Um,
forceful
and
energy.
that's what, a what?
It's not like a forceful energy.
No, it's definitely not forceful. Like I think it's
Like,
subtle. It's
yeah,
slightly subtle.
yeah, it's like subtle, alluring. It's not rushed, right? It's not like, I gotta rush, do this, do this.
I definitely don't think so. Even though I'm the type of person to rush everything, but I definitely don't think so. Um, It's helped a lot of people though, like career-wise. Like when you look at like Marilyn Monroe, she really honed into like the art of femininity. She wasn't always so graceful naturally. She had to practice, spend hours like in the mirror perfecting her voice. Like the voice that she spoke with, that wasn't completely hers. And that opened up opportunities that she otherwise can imagine. And there's so many other like examples of just naturally feminine women, and it's not a weakness. A lot of people think, okay, if you're feminine then you're probably anti-feminist,
Mhm.
and that's not the truth, because ultimately being feminine, you want opportunities for yourself, you want to do better, just in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But okay, so here's the thing. This is kind of like the overall point of it. And I'll go back and I will read the screen here. So here, the young lady that's analyzing this picture says, how can we trust a group of men who do not protect or provide even who ah sorry. So they say, how can we trust a group of men who don't protect or provide or even respect their own women to lead? And then she says, other women have the luxury of being protected and provided for by their men. This luxury allows them to be submissive and develop their femininity. Okay. So she's implying that in order for a woman to be in a safe place to develop their femininity, to be more submissive, to allow a man to lead, you have to actually trust that man. Trust that man to hold it down, trust that man to protect, to provide, right? Like like you can't how can one really rest in their feminine energy if they're always worrying about provisions and protection and if they're going to be okay and if they're going to be able to survive, right?
Okay, so I am going to actually disagree. And I'm sorry.
Don't
Okay,
apologize. Go ahead,
the
girl.
reason why I'm going to disagree is I don't think you develop your feminine energy within a relationship or
Mhm,
with someone else. It's something that you have or you don't. Think people are drawn into your feminine energy.
mhm,
And I think, like, for example, when we look at some of the comments, Asian women, I need a man, I need a man to lead me. And the other comments, it's more so like when I think back to my college days, like I had friends, like I had Asian friends, white friends, friends from just like all over the world who would come to university for the sole purpose of finding a husband. That was it, but it wasn't a husband that can, hone in to whatever feminine energy. They already had that feminine energy. They already walked. They developed this energy, not necessarily energy, behavior. behavior and mannerisms. They developed these mannerisms and behaviors from like early on because it's not like something you can switch on and off. It's something that it's like you are constantly aware of basically till it becomes second nature to you. And so that's where I think it's like a bigger issue about needing a man to protect and provide for you. Like, I think that comes afterwards as opposed to during the process.
Interesting. So you think okay, so now it's a question of whether what comes first, the chicken or the egg, um, with femininity. I definitely I'm leaning way more towards, I disagree. I don't think it's something well, I agree in that all women have feminine energy that they can tap into, but looking growing up and seeing my own family members, like the women in my family struggle, like, and they had to do everything on them by themselves. Like, if you had to do everything by yourself, it's kind of like it doesn't leave a lot of room to be feminine. It doesn't leave a lot of room to be able to submit to someone else's leadership because you are the leader. Because you have to be the provider. Because you have to protect yourself. Because you don't have a man. And it doesn't have to be in a relationship. I don't agree that feminine energy is only developed, someone can only trust in their femininity in a relationship. It could be having a strong father figure that allowed you to be feminine. It could be, brothers that protected you and that allowed you to be feminine. But if you don't have any of that, if you're kind of like this woman who's kind of like out on her own and has to fight for herself, fend for herself her whole life, how can we really expect that woman to learn femininity? You know, I don't think it's very realistic.
I definitely think those are good points, but I think like whatever happens within a relationship, especially because there's two things: one that like the world sees, and one that's actually happening within the home. But ultimately, whatever is happening is somewhat. I personally believe this, and it might go against popular opinion, but I think it's whatever you're allowing to happen. If you're allowing the guy to behave any which way because you need him there, like I don't think the
Mhm,
femininity really has there because you know your worth. When
mhm.
you tap into your yourself, your feminine energy to everything, you know your worth, you know what you deserve. And if you have a man there and you're working, let's say more than double, which I think it's completely okay for women to work, and he is not supporting you in any way whatsoever, you're allowing that. Like, you honestly don't need it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, if he's not providing and you're just providing for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you're like, it's just that.
Yeah, so, I mean, let's think about that, though. Like, let's think about femininity outside of you mentioned before, outside of a relationship. You know, if a woman is kind of out there fending for herself, right? It's just like, where is she going to get that luxury? Like, so if you don't agree that the luxury of femininity comes from having the opportunity to have a male or masculine entity protect and provide, where do you think the luxury comes from?
I think it's just nature. I think you either choose to like be in your like to be within your energy or not. Because just for me growing up, especially in the African community, I know so many women who did work all the time, who had multiple jobs. Some of them were single and unmarried, but if you ever saw them, you would still see they still put in that effort, if they were going out or if they're going to work and they have to wear sneakers in their movements. Have you ever seen an African woman walk? Like the movements, so like the swaying of the hips, the like subtle movement of like the hands, or just even like the way they put on their makeup. It's not necessary for a relationship. It's not necessary to obtain a relationship or to like develop it in a
Well,
relationship. I think it could.
okay, if you believe femininity is a choice, then how can it also be a luxury? Because a luxury is something that, not everybody can afford to have. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
earlier you were like, yes, it's a luxury, but now you're saying it's a choice. And I feel like even though a luxury can be a choice 100%, it's just a little, I'm not really understanding how it fits in with being a luxury. If you can just simply, every woman can just choose to be feminine. I really don't believe that. Because it's like, yeah, you can put on makeup all day long and you can sway your hips all day long. Doesn't mean you're feminine. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're embracing a receptive energy. It doesn't mean that you're allowing other people to take the lead.
Oh,
I just want to address some of these comments. So Paige says, when it comes to femininity, tone of voice, posture, and poise, how you stand out, your mannerisms are a huge sign. I am a dainty tomboy, so I have areas that need improvement. Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, and she says, oddly enough, when I fell in hard times, I attracted the most masculine men ever. I was in a position where I needed help. I was not proud, and I was honest and vulnerable. Oh, interesting. Oh, I think that's, Paige brings up a really good point though. Like the act of being vulnerable, like showing vulnerability can also be a very feminine trait, right? So like asking for help, like letting people know that you need assistance can be a very feminine trait.
I
Um,
definitely agree with that. It is a feminine trait, but also to answer your other question about how
mhm,
it could be a luxury. What I mean by it being a luxury, it can open up more opportunities for you, especially
gotcha.
more opportunities to earn more money, more opportunities to live in better areas, because people
Mhm,
still treat you based on how you look and how you act and your mannerisms.
mhm,
So it's not always, I'm like looking at it from outside the perspective of marriage.
gotcha. Okay, and I was kind of looking at it from so maybe I think our difference comes from our difference in understanding femininity as a luxury comes from kind of like, for on my end, it's the context. I feel like it's a luxury because, when we think about luxuries, we know that not everybody has access. You know what I mean? When we think about
Yeah.
when you think about like luxury, you think about five-star hotels and Gucci bags, right? Um, and that's something not everyone can have access to. Um, so, and I think when I think of luxuries, I immediately think of the conditions and the context that allow someone to have access to those luxuries. And I think you, on the other hand, are more so looking at kind of like the result of being feminine can bring you luxuries.
Yes, 100%. Because
Okay.
I think when you say luxury is not easily, I guess, is not easily available for everyone.
Mhm.
That's the thing. I think it is, but you
Mhm.
have to work towards.
Mhm.
Like everyone has the opportunity to work harder, to earn more, to do better, to be able to stay in the five-star hotel, to be able to fly first class and do all of these things. But what work are you putting in? And so you completely said my definition correctly.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So your definition of femininity being a luxury is more so, you get luxuries as a result of your femininity. My understanding of femininity as a luxury is, you know, you depending on your context, you will be more so or less so likely to be feminine, to actually rest in feminine energy. So it goes back to the questions because, like, I grew up watching my aunts work really hard and they didn't really have a choice. They didn't have father figure, they didn't have a father in their life. So they always, expected to work hard. Um, and we Ruth and I, we've already talked about um the more outwardly appearance of femininity, like so performing femininity through an outward appearance and also kind of this energy that you have within you. The thing is, you can work hard. A woman can have 3 jobs and work super hard and look super feminine on the outside, but that energy that they have can still be very masculine because they cannot rest. Because being feminine is definitely a more resting energy. It's an energy that isn't very, it's not rushed, it's not forceful, it's not active. It's a very calm and soothing and slow and an energy that takes its time. And when you have to work all the time, you can't really embrace that aspect of femininity. Like if you have to be responsible taking if you're a single mom, like it's hard, like unless you're doing what Paige mentioned, which is asking for help. And I think that can definitely help someone's feminine energy. Like when women ask for help, that's one of the or anyone when anyone asks for help, when anyone asks or accepts help, that's and receives help, that's very feminine.
I
Because
agree.
because
I def-
femininity, yeah, like femininity is a receptive. It's like a very receptive energy.
yeah, I guess so. I just like I don't know. I just think of so many instances. Like, clearly, as women, we do want to be taken care of, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be from a man. There are some women who, for example, if okay, you can have two types of women. You
Mhm,
can have one who forgets her, both of them forget their wallet and they're taking the same taxi. Depending on, I guess, how feminine one woman is, she could end up taking the taxi and not having to pay. But the other one would have to pay because whatever, it's really unfortunate that people are shallow and a bit biased, but because the other woman would not be like eluding or whatever that energy, she might have to pay. Like those are
mhm, mhm,
the same situation. So I
mhm,
think like even if you're working really hard, because if you choose to like live in your energy, kind of like you know, let's I'll give you an example of like cleaning or like maintaining your day to day. We normally create systems rather than just getting a task done. So like we automatic it's like our fallback thing. If something is out of place, we just naturally pick it up, or when we arrive home, we naturally put our jackets on the coat hanger. And I kind of see that's what like being feminine is. You practice that until it's like
mhm.
second nature. When it's second nature, no matter what you're going through, that energy is still there.
I agree. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is a lot of people cannot get into that groove or system of feminine practice so easily. I do believe everyone can really make an effort to do it, but depending on the context and someone's environment and someone's situation, it's going to be a lot easier for certain women to rest in their feminine energy than other women simply based off of the opportunity and the environment.
Yeah, I think one really important thing, mothers should try to encourage, if someone has a mother in their life, encourage their daughters to start, um, they should start teaching their children the beauty of being feminine from earlier on while they still have those opportunities and aren't so rushed. So
Yeah,
it becomes for just in case anything else happens.
yeah, I agree. Definitely. Definitely. Oh, so Paige says here, I have been in both energies, referring to the taxi analogy. Very interesting point there. It says, see, Ruth? She says she likes your point. So Ruth, and Paige also says here that when she fell on hard times and she had to ask, well, she needed help. All the men they offered, and she didn't have to ask. So since Ruth, you gave that taxi analogy, what would be the best way from your experience, Ruth, to get a man to offer to help so a woman could be more so in her feminine energy?
Honestly, for me, I've been in the exact same thing, and that's why I use that taxi analogy. And I didn't notice it because it happened to my friend as well. And her response was, "No, it's because people think you're pretty. That's why they do it for you." Like she would always say stuff like that. Because also when I was working in the U.S., I would say, and I think it really has to do with the whole energy thing and like presenting it outside. Like I think personally I'm naturally feminine. Now I recognize it. But like when I wore makeup to work, like 4 out of 5 days, I didn't have to pay for lunch at any restaurant that I went to. Literally, ever. Like I bought lunch probably once a week, and then I probably just paid for my coffee in the morning. That was the only thing. But
So what
so
did
going
you
back to
do? A lot of women are like, okay, oh, Paige says playing dumb works for her. Shauna B says when I wear my hair up.
What I was gonna say. Not playing dumb, but yeah, like just I guess you know how I talk. I'm a little bit like lighthearted and pretend that like, oh, what's going on, you know? And so like men really like I don't know why restaurants, even like the servers, they'll be like, oh, it's on me, don't worry about it. You know? That's the general response. But I think it's because like I'm just really lighthearted, and even if I don't understand what someone's talking about, I'll be like, oh, that's so funny, haha, okay. You know, just like I just trying to entertain them lightly a little bit, but not on purpose because I don't go with the intention of getting anything for free. It's just that's what usually happens, and it's almost guaranteed. Anytime I wear makeup in the city, if I go to a restaurant, I probably won't have to pay. Even that it happened at what's it called at Whole Foods too one time actually. Someone paid for my groceries just out of the blue. They're like, "It's okay, I got it."
Don't you love that? That's awesome.
So that's why I think it's like I think when you constantly tuned into that feminine energy, like I think you get things as a result of it, as opposed to you know, what we were saying earlier.
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely. So it's not that you're doing anything.
No, nothing specific at all.
So you can't give any tips for the audience.
Honestly, I can't. I just think no, honestly, I think it's just when you understand how powerful your energy could be, and just you live in it. I think good things are a result of it, but I don't know if there's anything specific you can say or do because
Hmm.
I don't remember ever doing anything specific. But I do remember when I dressed down,
Hmm.
like the cashier won't even say hello, people won't even acknowledge that you're around.
Oh
This
no.
is in a city, by the way.
Which
Yeah,
city?
where it's a little bit more rushed.
Which city are you talking
At
about?
Pittsburgh.
Okay. Okay.
What about you? Do you have any tips or examples?
Well, I do have some. So you already know we used to live in Jordan together, and I mean there it was. I mean absolutely everywhere someone paid for things. Egypt as well, and I think it was mostly a cultural thing. And of course, being attractive helps, but more so it was, just like being a woman. And I'm pretty sure I looked like I needed help. You know what I mean? Like if you look like you need help, I think people in Jordan and Egypt, people will go out of their way to help me. Um, but I say I got these examples. I got some examples of when I was in the United States. I came back, then I went to, or I would be traveling. So I have two examples of the airport. I don't know what it is about airports. I don't know what it is about airports, but I have like three examples for airports. So the first example was when I was living in Egypt and I was going to travel back to the United States. A guy sees me, he's like looking at me, and I'm like, okay, this guy's looking at me. And then I finished getting my ticket and moved upstairs. And then he's like, oh, hey, I was looking at you. Can I offer you any drinks or anything? And I'm like, oh, sure. And he takes me to Starbucks and buys me stuff. And then he gives me his card, right? So that was the first example. Okay. Second example is when I was in Florida. I was in the airport in Fort Lauderdale. I'm just sitting at a restaurant, eating, the lunch that I ordered. And then the guy comes, with his business partners, a man and a woman. And then the guy's like talking to me, chatting with me. And he's like, you know what? Lunch is on me. And I think at that point, I was in the United States. I think it was because I had a white pink dress on and I looked very nice and I had makeup on. And he and his colleague were like, "Oh, you look so beautiful today," and he just paid for my lunch out of nowhere. The third example of the airport is more recently. This was in March, traveling for a conference, And I go up to a guy and I said, "Hey, is our gate about to open? I thought I missed it. I thought I was late." He's like, "Oh, no, it's not open yet." So he takes out he pulls out some hand sanitizer and some wipes, and he says, "Here, take some hand sanitizers and wipes because you know the pandemic, blah blah blah, blah. The virus." And then he's like, "Oh, by the way, would you like to board with me because I have a free pass?" So it's like I get free stuff, but I think in America it's more so because I keep up with my outward appearance, and I try to put on that feminine, I try to perform femininity in my appearance. But when I have to say that I didn't try so hard with my appearance when I was living abroad, but I got a lot more help, and I think it's due to the culture.
I think part of it, especially with like the airport examples, maybe your guard is down and you're unexpecting, I guess, in those
Yeah,
situations. And so,
I wasn't expecting any of that in the airports.
and I think like that can show as well.
So when you say
So,
not expecting, like, because I never expect it though. That's the thing. Like, I never, unless a guy like tells me I want to take you on a date. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I never expect it. Period.
you go out a lot
Um,
before the pandemic.
I was at school, so I was just on campus, so not really. And people there don't really do that. Like, that's not a thing. I
Yeah,
think.
because I think one of the reasons why it happened so much for me is like I was working right in the middle of the city, you know? So like if I was gonna get lunch because I didn't like to carry lunch, I know that sounds terrible. I would just go to like a restaurant within like the vicinity, or I would go into Starbucks. So I was like always out. So those opportunities for people to do things were always available. It's not that I ever expected anyone. I never went out thinking, oh, someone's gonna do something for me. I went out thinking, okay, I'm gonna get this. I'll probably be in my head trying to decide something because I am probably the most indecisive person on earth. And that's when usually someone's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll pay for it, or I'll do this. But I definitely think a big thing is just being out
Do
as
you
well.
yeah, do you have women doing that for you though? Because yesterday a woman just, I mean, I was out, I have a part-time job, I deliver food. And this woman, like I go to different restaurants and deliver food. And this woman, like I saw she was, she spoke Arabic. I spoke Arabic with her. And then at the end of it, she just gave me food. And I'm like, "Are you sure?" She was like, "Yeah, just take it." She gave me like a whole meal. So do you have like women doing this? And I didn't even ask for it. And I was like, nah, I didn't even really want to take it.
Well, okay, not random woman, except for one time at a Drake concert. This woman upgraded my seats because she just thought I was so sweet. Um,
I
but
a lot of
not
women helping me though. Like, what is that? Like, I feel like in America, I get more women
yeah,
offering to do stuff for me, like helping me, than men.
really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but a
Huh.
lot of women, I don't know. I don't know. Like,
For me, especially okay, this sounds terrible. Especially white men, they have really helped me out a lot.
I'd
So
say a lot
much,
of white women.
like education, huh?
I'd say it's for me, it's the opposite. It's like white women that have like out of nowhere.
Yeah, with women I personally know them, whether it's like in the work field, and we've had some type of interaction, but without the interaction, I haven't really had a woman approach me out of nowhere.
Okay, okay, so Tyrone Church says femininity will get you through life easier. Ruth, you would agree with that, right?
Tyrone, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on why you think that?
Oh, actually, let me just send out this link. Oh goodness. Actually, Ruth, I want to actually get on the next live to talk about if Black women are desirable or not. Um, so let's let's wrap this up pretty soon. If we can get on the next one. Oh no, Fighter is here. So we're gonna get on the next live. But I just want to bring up Paige. So Paige says, "Can you guys talk? Let's just address this really quick and then move on to the next one, okay?" Ruth.
Okay.
Okay, okay, cool. So Paige,
Hey, Jen, can you guys talk a bit about facial expressions? I'm always thinking, and sometimes I have a RBF. I'm not sure what RBF means. How can I maintain a more pleasant facial expression?
okay, so RBF is resting B face.
Oh, okay. Um, I would definitely say practice softening up your face and in the mirror. Like I definitely think practice makes perfect, and try to like do like subtle smiles, or even think about like positive
Yeah,
things that have happened in your life. Like your face will automatically change
it's true.
even if you're
Think
not
about
smiling.
something funny. Like you can even smile and laugh. Like just smile. I think about funny stuff. Like
Me too. So weird.
I could just think about stories that Ruth and I have gone through and enjoyed. But anyway, Ruth, let's get on in a couple of minutes for the next live, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so guys,
All right.
you can come
Thank
back.
you
Yeah, come back. We're gonna talk about if Black women are desirable or not. Okay.
okay. Bye.
See ya. Bye.